Regular meeting of the Public Works and Sustainability Commission, starting at 7 p.m., 7:01. Let's go down to, we'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Simpson,
I am here.
Commissioner Bajaj,
Present.
Commissioner Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Nafisi,
Here.
Commissioner Sal,
Here.
and Chair Beely.
Present, thank you. Vice Chair, thank you.
Vice Chair. Chair Arata is absent.
Salute to the flag. Nafisa, will you guide us in the
Absolutely.
Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approve order of agenda.
I'll move to do that.
Second.
You do an aye vote?
Yeah. Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
blue folder items.
There is one blue folder item for J2 that was added in as an attachment to the agenda.
Move we accept the blue violet folder items.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the consent calendar up next. These are the F1 through F3 that can be voted on all at once.
So let's,
Can we make a motion?
We did ask
Move
for
we
public
accept
comment.
the consent calendar,
I'll second.
or pass the consent calendar.
I'll second.
We'd have to take public comment for this, just to make sure there's no public comment on the consent calendar.
so is there anybody making public comment for the consent calendar? Anybody on?
There
Zoom
is
or-
no one on Zoom and no e-comment. So we take a vote on approving the consent calendar?
You can also ask if anybody would like to pull anything from the consent calendar. Any of the commissioners.
Would anybody like to pull anything from the consent calendars?
No?
No. All in favor to accept?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Did we have anything excluded from the consent calendar items?
No.
Brings us to H, public participation, non-agenda items. Do we have anybody who would like to discuss anything that we're not going to, that's not scheduled to be discussed tonight? Anything on Zoom?
There is no Zoom and no e-comment.
So items continued from previous agendas.
None.
Items for discussion prior to action.
So J1, this is the discussion input to the city manager regarding preparation of the fiscal year 25-26 budget. And we have our city manager, Wazansky, here to give some comments and get some feedback from the commission.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Nice to see you tonight.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to be here. I am embarking on my annual tradition to reach out to each of the commissions and seek input on the preparation of the budget rather than input on the budget after it's been delivered to council. So started the process in February with the Public Safety Commission and then the Harbor Commission, and I'm on to all of you now here with Public Works and Sustainability Commission. So excited to be here. It's not a night where I do a lot of presenting to you. It's really a night for me to take questions from you all and really hear from each of you as it relates to matters that you'd like to see us consider as we prepare the 25-26 fiscal year budget, which we will be delivering to the City Council in May. May 16th is our charter required presentation day. We should have it to council, I hope, this year on May 15th, just given the weekly calendaring and the timing of that particular day of the week. But we're excited to get to work on it. Staff has already begun at the department level preparing their annual needs, looking at successes and strengths and weaknesses in each of the departments over the last 3 quarters of our current fiscal year, looking at their core budget, predominantly really our employee costs and our traditional maintenance and operation functions that require expenditure, whether it be utilities or contracts for services, materials, supplies, et cetera. So I don't see this being a major change type fiscal year for us. We have to absorb a lot of sort of annualized cost increases, particularly with our various labor agreements that have been negotiated and committed to on a multi-year schedule. So we'll include, of course, those year-over-year changes into the core budget. And then we'll look at items that were presented last year as one-time expenditures. Great example of that is the expansion of our crossing guard program in the city. It's been very successful. It's very well received, but only about half of that program. And right now, I think we're funding, I want to say roughly 27 intersections in town. Only about half of those intersections are funded with core traditional expenditure budget. We have been supplementing the program through one-time expenditures. So every year when we look at the budget and we prepare the budget, we analyze what we call sort of those one-time pilot programs, and we determine whether or not we need to absorb them into our sort of ongoing structural cost. So that's an example of something we'll be looking at, I think, very carefully this year. We have additional pressures through our unfunded accrued liability expenses. We do have new UAL, as we call it, that has come online due to recent performance of the CalPERS system. And they had some good years there for a while. We were fully funded after we'd issued our pension obligation bonds. We were doing exceedingly well. And then they had a couple of rough years. So we've received what they call a supplemental unfunded accrued liability expenditure line item, and we pay that over what they estimate and amortize about a 20-year period. So that's going to be about a $4.2 million expense this year. So we're slowly absorbing that into our core budget, our structural expenditures. But that is something that'll be a bit of a pressure point for us this year. And additionally, we have some pressures in our Harbor Uplands and Tidelands area. We've been supplementing those two funds for the last couple of years, particularly due to all of our capital expenses down there. We've made a lot of improvements if you've been down on the waterfront lately. We spent a lot of money on harbor dredging. Our international boardwalk has received a lot of attention, pier parking structure, et cetera. So we're proud of the work that we've done, and we've got a lot of great projects on the books and ongoing. But we have had to supplement the enterprise funds with some general fund money over the last 2 years. So those are a couple of the pressure points. Revenues continue to be strong, particularly our property tax base is good, and year over year our assessed valuations look to be growing at about a 5 to 5.3% rate going into the next cycle. So we're pleased with that. That's about a $2 million tax increment for us year over year as a result. So we're certainly welcoming that revenue, but that isn't on its own enough to fully capture some of these new pressure points. So we'll be tight this year. It'll be a fairly judicious budget preparation on staff's part, and then council from there, after I deliver to them in May, will take over, and we'll get our myriad of budget response requests for those who have followed our process in the past. Budget response request is an opportunity for the council to ask staff a question about what a particular program cost or add might entail, the impacts perhaps of adding additional funding to the police department for traffic officers, or expanding, as I said earlier, the crossing guard program, et cetera, where we would position those resources. So budget response reports are kind of a research effort that staff embarks on each year and answers those kind of one-off questions from the council and the community. But all in all, I don't want you to have the impression that it's going to be a negative year. I think it's going to be kind of a business as usual type budget this year, with us dealing with these new pressure points and then trying to slowly absorb these ongoing costs long-term to make sure we achieve structural balance on a, not just a year-by-year basis, but on the horizon line as well. So with that, happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, it's really about your input tonight. I know the charge of this commission tends to be capital projects. You know, you do a lot of traffic engineering work, certainly looking forward to any feedback on that. The Public Works Department's been hard at work with our various capital improvement program project list. We have, I think we're up to about 120 active projects, give or take, where we're at. That's more than we can handle in a single fiscal year. So, you know, we build anywhere from 20 to 25 in a year and design another 15 to 25, depending on the fiscal year. So we're chunking the program down. We're funding the out years. I mean, staff, Andy and his team have done a really fabulous job, you know, executing capital projects on the, at least over the last 2 years, I'd say, really successfully. And have done an excellent job going out and securing grant resources. Most of our capital program is funded by third-party revenue sources, whether it be metro monies or regional transportation restricted funds, et cetera. So, you know, really tip of the cap to the Public Works team for what they've achieved over the last 2 fiscal years. So anyway, happy to answer any questions related to that or anything else that's on your mind while I'm here. So the floor is yours, if you will.
Commissioners, any questions?
No questions.
I have a question. Nothing specific, just I guess maybe just for our general knowledge. You know, there's been some discussion of like loss of gas tax dollars with more electrification and so forth. I guess my first question is gas tax something that cities collect? That will be like my first question. And secondly, with EV stations and as we get more EV stations on private property, if there's any tax or any sort of revenue that comes to the city. And then I guess the third part is the city has a program or an interest in installing more EV charging stations out in the public right of way and what that could benefit, if anything, financially for us.
Yeah, great question. So to start kind of top to bottom, the gas tax is collected at the state level. And it has been relatively flat for us over the last few years. I think that's in part due to kind of to your description there, the ebb and flow between electric and gasoline consumption. Haven't seen a real precipitous drop for us of late. The state's policy priorities and distribution of that money is shifting, but for the most part, I don't think it's really impacted our budgets. We haven't seen the year-over-year increases that we used to see with kind of increased demand across the state. So I'd say flat isn't a great trajectory for us, but I don't think we've really experienced any sort of major recession there yet. As it relates to electric charging, we don't receive any specific excise tax, but we do participate in utility user tax as a result. So if somebody puts in a charging station at home, they're paying more in electricity. And when you pay more in electricity, you pay the city more in utility user tax. So whether that's a private resident or that's a commercial facility that's got to add additional voltage to cover their quick charge facilities or the like. So we do see a general UUT growth when we see more charging stations come online. We are constantly looking for grants to expand our electric charging network. We haven't been super successful in that. They've been very competitive at the state level, and they've been a bit of a challenge for us. So we don't have anything really planned. I think our next installation is likely to occur as more of a kind of small station by station install at park facilities, community centers, our parks yard. I think as we convert our fleet into more electric vehicles, we'll likely need to upgrade our internal infrastructure. So I think a lot of our effort will be there first and foremost. But if we are fortunate enough to get a grant, we'll certainly pursue it and install it.
I guess generally speaking, are they profitable? Like, is there an interest, like sometimes, maybe the maintenance or, the upkeep or just the loss of revenue of maybe a metered space might be, maybe it doesn't make sense, but I was just curious if it tends to be profitable for public entities.
Tends to be flat.
And generally speaking.
Yeah, it tends to be flat for us because we seek to make it cost neutral really for the residents. Could it be profitable? I suppose. We haven't pushed that. We don't have incredible demand here locally. Most of our travel network, I think, and most of happens to be our own residents. You know, you look at Riviera Village as an example. So I think most people are traditionally charging at home when they're traveling here. The waterfront maybe is an exception to that. As we see increased economic activity there with the retrofitting of our various businesses, I could see more demand there. And in fact, that was where we initially pursued our first grant, was to electrify a couple of our surface lots there down at the waterfront. We thought that would have been a great application. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful both times we applied. And some of it had to do with Edison not really being prepared to deliver the sort of sub-infrastructure that's needed to provide the charging facility. So we'll keep looking there. I think there's an opportunity there down the road for sure, because we do see a lot of what you would call sort of 2-hour drive visitors. Whereas, you know, if you're popping out of the village, you're probably doing it from your own garage and charging when you get home. So the demand pattern's a little different for us. We have the major facility, there's a Tesla charging station up at the Marine Avenue Hotel site. If you've ever been off at the Homewood Suites, Hilton Garden Inn up there, there's a big facility there.
By North.
You know, we benefit from the utility user tax there. So, yeah, it's been relatively flat of late. I haven't seen major growth in that area. I don't know, Andy, if you're feeling that pressure from our electric standpoint or not, but.
No, we have, as Mike said, we've tried a couple of grants. These tend to be focused on disadvantaged communities currently, and we don't really register well there yet right now. And our own facilities are challenged because our panels are already as full as they can be with demand. So we have to do some fairly significant upgrades to our own facilities to just bring them in for, parking lots at our facilities. So a lot of challenges right there with that project.
And along with the transformer adaptation at the Edison level. I mean, we had major power outage today as an example, where Edison's network in the South Bay is pretty well consumed right now. So,
Thank you for that.
yeah, appreciate the question.
Go ahead.
I was wondering about installing, or if we have cameras kind of at key intersections for security purposes throughout the city.
Yeah, we have several automated license plate reader systems that are installed at our major points of entry in town. So those cameras, if you will, are looking specifically at the license plate and then are pumping that information into our network. They've been very successful for any cars that are, identified as having an issue. We haven't used camera technology just to observe incoming, outgoing traffic. I will say we've invested in, I want to say it's called Infusus technology that allows us to access for opt-in partners with the commercial sector and provide their camera coverage to our police department in real time. So we're able to gain a lot of footage and information when we have different investigations or we're seeking individuals in kind of a containment situation. So we've done well, I think, capturing information that's available to us. We've invested in all of our new community centers. Our transit center has, I think 148 cameras or something up there. So we've got Kingsdale pretty well covered. We've added technology around City Hall and our obviously our police facilities. So we've done well, but it's a bit of a balance. There's on one side, we like the security and the access that information and footage provides. And on the other side, there's, some of our community members question sort of the need and the privacy, raise the privacy concerns and the like. So we don't just roll it out, and we're very careful about it. But I will say the automated license plate readers have been fabulous for our police department. We have done a lot of really good work due to information that they've provided us.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Speaking with other cities, that's been a big point of success for them as well. The only other major thing I wanted to ask about was the discussions about the changing of the Artesia corridor. Has there been a thought about developing an Artesia-specific plan?
We have one, actually.
Okay.
We developed what's called the ACAP, Aviation Artesia Corridor Plan.
Okay.
Corridor Area Plan, I should say. And that has given rise to a series of policy recommendations. Council has adopted some of them. A great example is looking at more flexible parking standards. Right. One of the barriers for economic development up in that area has been the kind of older, less contemporary parking regulations that dictate, the number of spaces on a square footage basis or use spaces. Whereas today, with a heavier pedestrian network in the area, you would look for probably more relaxed standards. So council's adopted those as a bit of an economic incentive. And we're currently studying and ready to consider an increase to the floor area ratios for the various commercial properties in that region. That was another big push in the ACAP, along with additional outdoor dining opportunities, rooftop dining, and some other sort of commercial open space suggestions. We separate from that, we have a pretty distinct art effort that's occurring up there. We've got money invested to provide a bit of an art installation along the boulevard that we think will help create better sense of place and again, attract more investment. So it's top of mind for council. They've been working pretty hard on it. These changes, though, require a lot of CEQA review, a lot of traffic analysis, impact analysis, et cetera. And then in some instances are actually going to require a vote of the residents because they will constitute a major change in allowable land use. So we've got a few steps to get through before we're ready to go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Feast.
Two questions. One, is the school district contributing to the expansion of the crossing guard program?
Good question. We are in conversations with them. We have made a formal request of them to do so. There's a subcommittee of the school board members and the city council that have been meeting regularly on that topic. We're hopeful that they'll contribute. They have not as of yet. It is being considered, I think, in their current budget development. So we'll receive word on that, I think, in the next month or two. They are contributing to our school resource officer program. They do contribute towards that.
I'm hoping that you guys can serve as an advocate for the residents and make
We're
sure they
pushing
pay
hard.
their fair share.
Yeah, no, we certainly got my hand up for that. Would love
All right,
that.
all right.
Yes.
And then the second question, is there any efforts to increase more murals or artwork in the city?
Yeah. I think we've got two major installations in the queue. We have a contract issued for the mural project on Catalina on the Public Works Yard. That artist isn't available until this summer, so the contract's been let. He's beginning the staging process, and engineering is assisting in traffic control in the area. So we hope to have that mural complete this, I want to say July, August, last schedule I saw. And then we've got another project that's funded and the contract has been secured for the gate wave art installation at the Parquet at the end of Redondo Street. So that's going to be an exciting project. The additional mural effort is really going to be centered, I think, around, and it may not be murals, it may be a combination of murals, sculptural art, it's going to depend. It's going to be along Artesia. We've got the $400,000 set aside for an Artesia improvement.
2 million.
And that will be.
2 million.
Well, that's when the South Bay Social District revitalizes that.
All right.
Yeah, that'll be fabulous when we get that.
Got my eye on the prize.
We're hopeful for that. But the $400,000 is set aside. We brought on a consultant to help kind of envision the different artworks that could be installed up there. So that project is just getting going. Actually, I think the Public Art Commission considered the consultant agreements a couple of meetings ago and have made a recommendation that'll come back to council soon.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Thanks for your questions.
Quick thing, thanks, Mike, for coming by. Time flies. It seemed like this was yesterday.
No kidding.
In reviewing the budget for 2024-25, there was like an increase in public works budgeting, and it looks like significantly over the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's been increasing from cost of materials, personnel, which is, I think, seen as a significant increase, part-time workers, et cetera, vehicles, professional services. What do you anticipate in 25, 26, continued growth?
I mean, I'd love to say we could continue to increase and build that staff. That's really, I think, building out the engineering services division in particular is what's led us to that increase in productivity on the capital improvement front. That, along with deploying more on-call consultants, professional services to help assist in pre-engineering, design, development, et cetera. That's been fantastic in helping expedite workload. But I do think, candidly, it's going to be a bit of a flat year from a personnel standpoint. It's been enough for us to just absorb the inflationary pressures and costs that we've seen on, the utility side, whether it be electricity, water, gas. All three of our major ones have spiked in cost. So we've slowly brought those costs into the budget. We've had increased pressure with tree trimming services. That's been another big one, making sure we can complete the grid. Those costs have gone up. Our standby vendors are just their cost of business has gone up significantly in the last 2 years due to inflation. So those pressures I don't think are subsiding going into 25, 26. I wish they were. So I see, not to disappoint Andy, who's I'm sure still hopeful of changes.
Can you cut his mic or something?
Yeah, exactly. It's likely to be a fairly flat year with perhaps some exceptions, based on absolute acute need. But yeah, I see it year over year. I see it's relatively flat.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, wish that wasn't the case.
I have one last one.
Oh, please.
And, apologies if I'm speaking out of turn or anything, but is there something in the budget for like staff, like training and professional development for like attending conferences or things like that?
Yeah, no, great question. Yes, to answer your question, there is. We've restored, training was a big cut during the COVID era, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
We've restored the travel, training, professional development budgets to kind of pre-COVID levels, which is good. We actually also set aside $80,000 in this fiscal year budget to do our own developed professional programming. We're in conversations with the University of Pepperdine right now to actually help prepare, and this might be a novel concept, it is from their perspective, and I think they're excited about the partnership, but to develop a contract development, contract management program to help us develop, I would say, more comprehensive agreements with our various vendors, whether they be professional services, maintenance and repair function, et cetera. The idea that we build, use best management practice in developing terms of service, scope of work with measurables, deliverables, schedules, et cetera, that our compensation schedules align with those various deliverables. So we've got money there. We're working with them to develop that program and hope to roll that out to our analysts, managers, directors, et cetera, this year. So we're doing the typical kind of travel, training, conference stuff that everyone will do through their professional networks, APWA is an example, or Society of Civil Engineers, the different groups that we normally associate with in public works. But we're going to do some in-house training through third-party consultants as well, but we're excited about that.
Right on, thank you. Good.
All right, any other suggestions? Any projects you're dying to see constructed here? Add to the back of the 120 list that we already got at the table.
Well, I'd love a comprehensive traffic review. It's just, I'm sure it's really cheap,
Yeah,
but
based on
it's been
all of our CEQA
my
work. Yeah.
bucket list item for the city for so long,
Yeah.
considering how much we address stop signs and these just
Right.
little Band-Aids that don't really address any of the traffic that we're doing. And, the traffic from the schools have really increased significantly and just feels like we're a mess.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, as somebody who commutes by three schools on my way to work, between Barrel and the high school and West and others, it's pretty active. We did fund a small study around the high school that's underway right now. I know it's early in that process and we're waiting on, I think, some of their recommendations to help with that.
Well, that's a big problem, so.
Yeah, that's one of the
It's very
big ones. So we're hopeful that they'll have some good solutions for us there. But no, appreciate the comment. It definitely would love to see more comprehensive analysis there. We've been focused on kind of the active transportation network a little bit more than just the sort of more holistic approach. But, to your point, it's, as you know, it's not cheap. These traffic studies, unfortunately, it feels like we're doing them for CEQA purposes more often than sort of helpful purposes. But they are expensive.
Thank you.
Am I understanding things correctly that the traffic regulation on PCH is done through the state?
Yeah, so PCH is controlled by Caltrans. Yeah, it's still a state highway technically. So those intersections the timing of those intersections is performed by them for the most part. Now, we try to suggest to them, hey, ways to improve things. We have funded some of our own sub-regional studies to try to incentivize them to make changes. In fact, we did a corridor study a couple of years ago specific to Pacific Coast Highway between the 2 points of entry. There were some good suggestions that came out of that, most notably around the Torrance Boulevard PCH intersection. So we have some, I think, planned work that's going to be part of Caltrans' major road rehabilitation effort over the next couple of years. As an example, extending the left-hand turn pocket there as you go southbound PCH to go eastbound Torrance Boulevard. That's a big point of conflict. We had studied whether or not to add a right turn, initial right turn lane there to go westbound Torrance Boulevard. I think that's not necessarily going to occur. I think we're now looking at just sort of relocating the bus stop to maybe help with those movements. So a few things are happening as part of their network improvements. And we've done some work at the intersection at Redondo Street. It's not perfect. It's a goofy intersection to begin with, but I think we're looking at that, trying to make some improvements. It's gotten really bottled up going north in Hermosa. Their pedestrian improvements up there, while nice if you're a pedestrian, traveling kind of east to west, and I'm sure many of their residents very much appreciate that. But if you're in a vehicle going northbound on PCH, north of Redondo, it can be a little bit of a mess there for a while.
Mike, one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I was going to bring it up in agenda number 3 here a little bit, but the K line, the C line, the green line, whatever you want to call it, the Metros, the locally preferred alternative for the hybrid option was selected. And I'm sure you're, and I know it's going to start to go into a new phase now as I think they wrap up the comments, and there's a program management support services contract out for Metro right now, kind of signaling the next phase. And I know that there's a couple consultants that have been selected recently to kind of provide some support, but as we go into the next phase of the project, advise to take consideration into who you would want to have, whether consultant or in-house, to advise on those improvements as they really start to get codified in on the plans, whether it's the public art side, how the utilities are impacted, traffic, et cetera.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, we're monitoring that very closely. You make a good point. We have brought on a bit of a team of consultants to study the various elements associated with the impacts of that project, whether it be air quality, geotechnical, noise, et cetera. We have a lawyer that we've hired to support our efforts as well to help assemble our comments. And council will take appropriate action as that project design takes shape. We're a little bit unclear at what the hybrid option looks like. It came together fairly, kind of last minute in their conversations. So they're doing additional analysis now. I think they're wrapping up their environmental impact report. So we're eager to see some of that detail. We provided a very comprehensive comment letter early in the process to share our concerns. We're hopeful that the report will be responsive to those concerns. We'll see, and we'll be looking at that very carefully. But it'll be a team effort. We've got several residents that have been really dogged on that, which we very much appreciate. And any observations you all have, please share with staff. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
I think you're getting off easy today, but yeah. But thank you for your presentation and for keeping us well informed.
Absolutely. Always happy to do it. It's good to see you, and hopefully it'll be before next year at this time. Take care. Have a good rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So just to be clear, our staff recommendation on this one would be just to receive and file that report, and you may want to, or you should solicit any public input that there is on this topic as well.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this?
We have a couple of cards. Liam Walsh.
As it goes.
Before you start, the timer is not working, so I will keep time on my phone and let you know when time's up.
Okay, thanks. All right, good evening, commissioners. My name is Liam Walsh. I'm a resident of District 5, and I'm also a volunteer with the South Bay Bicycle Coalition. In the context of this budget discussion, I wanted to share some statistics that we've compiled about how the city's been doing with regards to the implementation of the South Bay Bicycle Master Plan. So Redondo Beach has implemented the most miles of bike lanes out of the 7 cities that adopted the plan in 2011. So I want to thank you and city staff for your service to the community and for the fact that Redondo has established itself as a leader in the South Bay for building bicycle infrastructure. Currently, we're at about 33% of bike lane miles complete throughout the city. That constitutes 11 miles complete with 23 to go. This is referring to lane miles, so 1 mile of road with bike lanes on both sides would be 2 lane miles. So while I do celebrate this progress, I do want to bring to light that it's been around 14 years since the plan was adopted. So we're at 33%. By that math, it'll take us another 28 years to finish it off. And I believe we as a city can get this done well before the 2050s, because I'll be twice my age. But this will require a plan to complete the network in a timely fashion. I know we had a phase 1 implementation plan, which covered a lot of great improvements building bike lanes in the last few years. What I would like to see is an implementation plan that includes the funding and staffing needed to complete the full bicycle master plan over a specific time frame. I would suggest a target of 3 years. Other cities in California have shown that around 8 lane miles per year is certainly feasible. And this would also put Redondo in a good position to be a real biking city for the Olympics. If we can say the plan is done by 2028, that would be a great target, I think. There's a few, I guess the main segments that we haven't had bike lanes on yet that are part of the original plan are 190th, Artesia, Aviation, Camino Real, Catalina, Inglewood, Marine, PV Boulevard, Prospect, Redondo Beach Boulevard, Ripley, and Sepulveda. So those are kind of the big chunks that are still yet to be done. For all of these, as well as for most of our existing bike lanes, the South Bay Bicycle Coalition has recently called for protected Class 4 bike lanes on these like busy arterial streets. I was really happy to see the Class 4 bike lanes pass this commission last month on PV Boulevard, because that's a huge step in the right direction there. So I think in summary, to effectively tap into the 70% of car trips in the South Bay that are less than 3 miles, we really need a connected network of protected bike lanes that are safe and comfortable for all ages and abilities to use. And most importantly, a funded and staffed plan to ensure we can complete that on some schedule. So thanks for your time, and I hope you make an effort to see it to completion. Thanks.
We also have Davis. If you can say your whole name for the record, I can't read your last name on here.
Hi, my name is Davis Hunt. I'm a resident of Redondo Beach, District 2. And so I wanted to also thank you for your service to the community and support in passing all these protected bike lanes. And one thing I would like to see is with more of them is there's a 2023 study that came out from Johns Hopkins University that showed that narrower lanes that counter to current street design standards, lanes that are about 9 feet wide have 1.5 times less collisions and crashes than streets that are 12 feet wide. And that the narrower a street gets, the safer it becomes, up to a point, obviously. But that it's counter to a lot of modern design, and it really only applies in these heavy traffic areas, in areas where the speed limit is 30 miles or more. And that below that, there isn't a real difference. And so I would like to kind of encourage that, because it could be protecting not only cyclists, but also drivers. It could help reduce the number of collisions overall. Thank you.
That is all for the cards. But if there's anyone else in the public that would like to speak to this item, now would be the time.
Just kind of did, so. Anyone in the audience like to speak on this? No? We have any e-comments?
We don't have any e-comments. We do have a Zoom comment. Brianna, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, good evening, Commission. My name is Brianna Egan. I'm a resident of District 1. I'm calling in to provide some comments on, I think, opportunities that you all could champion with this budget cycle. I do want to echo some of the earlier comments. Really thank you for your leadership on this area in the city. I think I have really seen you all champion things like safer infrastructure on our streets that really promotes safety and mobility for everybody who uses our streets. And for your openness to trying new configurations and traffic calming and things like that. So some of the requests that I would like to share would be to firstly, I think this was echoed in some of your statements, to fund the Public Works team. I think we have an excellent Public Works team, including our engineering staff. And I think for the size of our city and the number of residents, they really punch above their weight. And so I would like to see us recommend more staffing and more funding for new additional staff members on the Public Works engineering side. I also want to put in my support for bicycle infrastructure that is in progress, and also potential future bicycle infrastructure. So the PV Boulevard was mentioned. I think on Prospect Avenue, we also have an opportunity to really link all the schools there with protected bike lanes. And so I would love to see, funding for a study for that. And then finally, I want to comment on Beach Cities Transit. I think that this is a bus agency and a service that needs more love from our city. And so I would like to see funding that can implement things like route improvements on the bus lines, frequency improvements as well, and improving publicity and communications about the routes, so that all residents know that they can use it as an alternative to, say, driving and parking at Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, El Segundo. It's really a good alternative if we can fund more frequency. And then finally, this was kind of mentioned in different ways, but I think there are funding sources that the city can apply for. So Metro Active Transportation is one, Measure M, which was the countywide tax measure for transportation. And then when it comes to making these projects happen, there is streamlining. SB 922, which is current law in the state of California, exempts from CEQA active transportation projects. So anything that we do that improves bike lanes, bus lanes, walking improvements can all be exempted. And so it doesn't have to go through that process. So it can happen much faster and help us meet our climate goals. So once again, just want to thank you for your work on this. I do plan to submit a letter along with other folks who are interested in this work that details some of our budget requests further. But thank you for listening.
There's no further comments on Zoom.
So we need a motion to receive and file?
Motion to receive the file?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, please, sir.
Second that motion.
Do we have to do a roll call vote for this?
I think we can just do a voice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item up is pertaining to the intersection of Ripley, Huntington, and Perkins, adjacent to Adams Middle School and Washington Elementary School. You've seen this before, this commission at least has seen this before. A couple of years ago, we had an always stop request on RIP to install stop signs on Ripley at this intersection, which we studied. We didn't really meet the kind of statistics that would drive this forward from a staff point of view, but due to the resident request and the council member, we went ahead and investigated this. The commission supported it as well as the city council. So stop signs were installed on Ripley. A little bit hard to see in that photo, but kind of at the northern edge of where Huntington intersects Ripley and the southern edge of where Perkins intersects Ripley. And what this does is just create kind of a expanded intersection where opposing vehicles on Ripley stop, and they're about 130 feet apart. Makes it a little bit tricky checking all the areas you would need to clear to proceed through the intersection. So one of the other recommendations we made at the time was to condense this intersection and advance some more civil site work to be done, concrete work, things that are more expensive than stop signs and striping to improve the intersection. So this is coming before you tonight because the city is moving forward with the paving project along Ripley. This is an opportune time to consider design improvements for this intersection and include them in that project where we'll be doing some other concrete work in the area. So we just wanted to bring this forward to you tonight for consideration. We have done some outreach on this to the public. And by the way, Ryan is on vacation tonight. He's coming back tomorrow, or I'm sorry, on Wednesday. So I'm pinch hitting here. So you're not going to get the A team right now. You're going to get me. But this is, he's reached out last summer and then again in March of this year to the neighborhood. We did get a response from the person who lives on the section of street that we're going to talk about, which is Huntington Lane to the east side of Perkins. And that's a picture of the front door there where we left a letter after a couple of attempts to knock and with no answer. And fortunately, we've heard from him. He forwarded an email over the weekend, which we saw today, and forwarded to you in the blue folder item tonight. And I believe he's here tonight and probably wants to speak. So that would be good to hear from him. We haven't had a chance to really process what he said, by the way, just for what that's worth. Anyway, due to this unconventional intersection, we have some other recommendations that we'd like to introduce now. And we have assigned these to our design consultant for this intersection based on recommendations in the past, and we are moving forward, but we want to get additional input from you all tonight. So the specifics of this intersection, the westbound Ripley approach is just a long way from the southbound or eastbound approach. The eastbound Huntington stop and path of travel can conflict with the westbound Ripley movements. The always stop contains 4 disparate approaches that do not really face each other. So it's just a little bit of a confusing intersection right there. That's kind of the current way it's configured right now. What we're proposing is to reverse the 1 block of Huntington that is to the east of Perkins, making it westbound one way rather than eastbound one way. This will serve to remove the conflict for the westbound stop, kind of in the middle of the 2 stop bars on Ripley. We would propose moving the stop bar on southwesterly Ripley up to the intersection with Perkins, reconfiguring the Perkins approach a little bit to create kind of a 90-degree approach to Ripley Avenue, which will improve visibility, no awkward kind of acute corners to look around. We did something like this. You may be kind of familiar with this further up Ripley, up the hill on Ripley, for the exact intersection. We went through a trial period of about 6 months. We got some feedback from the residents. It's all very positive, and so we made those changes permanent a few months later, sometime last year. So we're proposing something similar here. The red shape there that you see is meant to represent an expansion of the island that's there now to create some curb ramps, create pedestrian pathways along that island that shorten the path of travel through the streets by crossing Huntington north-south and then coming to the Perkins-Ripley intersection before making a crossing across Perkins. The Huntington-Ripley intersection is a really long path of travel for pedestrians, so we would not encourage that, would not put curb ramps at that location, but rather direct pedestrians to use the shorter crossings. We think this is a good solution. This is something we talked about and would have recommended had we money available, capital improvement money available to do it at the time. But the recommendation at the time was we would advance this design when we got to this area with the paving project. And so we're at that point now. We do have a couple of parking things to work through here because of the new daylight rule. We'll have to red stripe some areas that used to be parking spots along Huntington. So we do lose a little bit there. I think Ryan has shown here 4 green spaces that would make up for the losses further west on Huntington. So that's something we're also looking at a little more carefully and will be in the design. But that's the essential nature of the changes we're proposing as part of this design effort for our repaving project. So our recommendation is to advance the design to convert Huntington Lane from one-way eastbound to one-way westbound, and then to continue with the civil improvements that were shown there on the previous sketch. We will eventually need to take this to City Council for their approval with this design change. Alternatively, we could keep the intersection as is during the street rehabilitation and just repave it as it's configured right now. And then there are other options that you may determine you'd prefer us to consider in our design. So I'll leave that with the remarks and happy to answer questions.
I'll start off. Can we go back to the image of the proposed improvements? I'm a big fan of this design. A couple of things that I would take a look at is I know there's about 1,000 feet between crosswalks along Ripley. So I would recommend down here on the southwest section, a crosswalk at Ripley to help mitigate jaywalking. Also too, since there is parking on that west side of Ripley, looking into expanding the curb extension into Ripley 6 to 8 feet. Because I think that's where the best curb extension is going to be served from a safety standpoint.
Let me just be clear, expanding the curb extension on which corner of Ripley?
On that southwest corner there of Ripley.
With
and
Perkins?
at Perkins, yeah.
Yeah.
Where you've shown it proposed where it's extending out into Perkins. I'd also take a look at extending it out into Ripley.
Okay.
Since that is parking there, so it's you're not getting into the traveled lane. And I like I said, that's where by far the most traffic's going to be going through. So I think that's going to be the best use of a curb extension.
And then your first comment was add a
And then
crosswalk there as well.
there across
Got it.
Ripley.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's a pretty long distance in between crosswalks there. I'm not too familiar.
Were you suggesting a crosswalk?
Down across where at the very bottom where there's the stop bar. Correct. Yeah,
Crossing Ripley, yeah.
right there. Yeah.
We would bulb that out into Ripley as well as into Perkins in that suggestion.
And I'm not too familiar with the parking rules, like the tree rules. You got to take one, bring one back. I'm not too certain on that.
No, not in this area. That's just the coastal zone where we have that
Okay.
kind of replacement requirement.
Anecdotally, it seemed like there's sufficient parking, street parking in this area. I would caution about putting parking on the island. It could create some confusion if not completely necessary. Other than that, yeah, I think the design makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't know all of what was in Ryan's mind as he worked on this design, but I do know a crossing there at Ripley of Ripley Avenue may contradict what we're trying to do to focus crossings where the crossing guard is further up the street.
Okay.
So that may be why it's left out there I mean, it is a legal crosswalk certainly, but a marked crosswalk may encourage students to cross there when it's not currently a guarded, crossing guarded intersection.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would be discussing maybe moving the guarding. I don't know, but something I just noticed anecdotally as we went through. Yeah,
Got it.
Those are all my only recommendations. So yeah.
I would like to hear Mr. Ramos's proposal. He went through a very detailed email of what his proposal with great artwork, by the way. Have we considered that, or we're going to be discussing that today?
Honestly, we just got it. We just saw it today, and without Ryan here, we did our kind of cursory review. We did reach out to Ryan on his travel day back. And he said he thought a lot of the concerns could be mitigated through proper design, additional bulb outs, things like that to mitigate the concerns about traffic leaving Ripley onto westbound Huntington and things like that. So yeah, I think I would defer to him on some specifics on that, but certainly love to hear what Mr. Ramos has to say and try and respond to any questions you have after that.
Do you want to open up for public comment?
Yes.
So you have 3 minutes. I'll put the timer here.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really prepare for a speech, but that's why I wrote that detailed email, because I think there's a lot to talk about. I know that I understand that I've lived in this house. That picture of that door is mine for almost quarter of a decade, since 2001. So I've seen it all. I've seen traffic flow, pedestrian flow, and whatnot. And it's been a pet peeve of mine because everybody just takes whatever route they can possibly take, legal or illegal. It's been done. So I see this change. I'm like, well, the plan is to make improvement, but this is still going to create the confusion. It's still going to be going to make an unconventional way. Road is still going to be unconventional. People is still just going to create confusion. It's not going to solve really anything. If anything, it's going to make it even unsafe because there's more people going faster coming from Inglewood Avenue, entering Ripley westbound. These guys are going 40, 50 miles an hour. Believe me, they blow through that stop sign, even though it's been added there, So they're just gonna go in the Huntington westbound just to go to make a northbound Perkins. Just give me a break. It's all I'm saying is it's not gonna add any value or make the place any safer. My recommendation is just block that whole 50-foot section. That will create the place conventional. The traffic flow will there's going to be no extra options for people to take legally or illegally. Right now, people make an illegal U-turn coming from Ripley westbound. They'll bypass Perkins just to make a U-turn and then to get to Perkins. If you're going to make this legal, that's going to be their easiest flow is to just bypass Perkins, make a U-turn. Instead of making a left westbound from Ripley, they're not going to make that left to Perkins. They're just going to make a U-turn. They do it now. Knowing it's illegal, they do it now. Now you're going to make it legal. Now there's going to be more traffic making a U-turn to it. So I'm just saying that the goal of this change is to mitigate safety, confusion, and make it, but it's just going to stay the same to me. So my proposal is just block that 50-foot section, and this will eliminate the confusion. This will add more safety. Thank you. Just please maybe look at my email. Thank you.
Seeing that, I have a question, Chair.
Sure, please.
Seeing that, I know there's still some questions, and even per Andy's recommendation, we kind of, have this discussed with Ryan before any action. Is it possible to continue the item?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was going to add that is always an option for you guys to continue it, to give Ryan a chance to review and respond to specifics that were presented in the email that came.
Yeah, I'll wait till everyone else has questions, but my recommendation is going to be to, my motion would be to recommend that we continue the item and let Ryan have a look at, what Mr. Ramos provided and kind of do a deeper dive with.
Yeah, definitely have Ryan review.
Yeah.
What data do we have any data around any accidents or any issues that have happened at that intersection before in the past?
I remember when we did the always stop, we didn't have any reportable, correctable accidents at that location that was driving the need for the stop sign there. I don't know if we've collected any data since then. I couldn't tell you. I don't think we have. We may have some speed data on Ripley itself that we gathered for other purposes, but I couldn't tell you if it was before or after the stop signs went in. So it may or may not be germane to the situation now.
I guess I'll make a motion that the item be continued.
I'll second that.
Before we vote, there is no e-comments and there's no one on Zoom for the record.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just ask in the motion if there's anything in particular you'd like Ryan to consider of your own questions or just to focus on the email that came in from the residents. Just want to make sure we cover all the questions that you guys have.
Well, I know Commissioner Anderson had a question about putting a crosswalk along the, let's call it the west leg of the intersection. I guess, that would have to be evaluated with curb ramps and what cost.
Yep.
What other cost impacts that would have. But I mean, that's, and I would then say continue the item as well as explore if there's a feasible option to add a crosswalk across Ripley with this design, whether it be on either leg or, if there needs to be something unconventional.
Yeah, and perhaps consider Mr. Ramos's recommendation of blocking that and see if there's what implications there are.
Yeah, I would hope that when they continue the item, Ryan would obviously touch base with the.
Consider, yeah.
Yeah, no.
So,
Looking at this, where Huntington intersects with Ripley, I don't know what it would take for the city to make that into like a cul-de-sac, block that section off, but I'll let the Ryan, the engineering genius, take care of that. I'm sure he can figure something out that works for everyone.
I think that kind of almost goes back to partially like a hybrid design of what Mr. Ramos
absolutely.
presented as
No,
well.
I think it was a great
closing
idea.
it off. So maybe that there is some other out-of-the-box solution that
Right.
Ryan comes up with.
Something that comes like with a cul-de-sac, so there'll still be plenty of parking, yet it wouldn't really be accessible to through traffic.
So I maybe just to clean it up, can we say that we want to continue the item for Ryan to take in a further analysis to see if there's any other improved design or?
Based on the comments we've heard tonight
Yeah.
and the question from Mr. Anderson, Commissioner Anderson, and yeah, that's clear.
Would that work?
That's clear.
Instead of listing everything specifically,
Yeah,
just
that's clear.
have another look with the new information?
I will just say, and I'm not saying it applies here, but I know our city council is reluctant to block streets because kind of the doctrine of public right-of-way is that it's public right-of-way for all. So I don't know how feasible or preferable it will be kind of from an overall public view. I certainly understand why it makes sense for the resident at that particular home, but maybe there's some other solutions that mimic that we can come up with.
so
Andrew, how is that intersection at Pullman, Ripley, and McKay been going? I mean,
I asked that question. I know during the trial period, we got a lot of positive review. I did ask if there's been any complaints since then, and Ryan said there hadn't been that he'd heard of, so.
good to know.
I'll second the motion that was made.
Okay. Do you want to do a
Do a roll
vote
call?
on it?
Let's do a roll call vote, yeah.
Commissioner Simpson,
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Aye.
Commissioner Afisi,
Aye.
Commissioner Sal,
Aye.
Vice Chair Beely.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll lead off on this one too. J3 is an item regarding the upcoming strategic planning session that council will be holding on April 29th. That's the scheduled date, Tuesday night. Last year they extended their planning period to a 12-month cycle rather than a 6-month cycle, which they'd done in the past. But they are preparing to kind of open it all up again. Normally, we give you status updates on the progress that we're making on the various objectives in the strategic plan on a monthly basis. This is the time where they open it up for new objectives or continuation objectives for things that have already been addressed. We wanted to bring this item for you tonight to give you an opportunity to have a discussion about things that the commission would like to see the council consider for inclusion on the strategic plan, either follow-up items or new items there. We wanted to bring it tonight to give you some time to think about that and discuss it and determine how you would like to, if and how you would like to communicate anything formally to the city council. Certainly, each of you could appear, if you'd like to, at the formal meeting on the 29th and give your input. But if the commission as a body wanted to do something, we wanted to give you enough time to assign somebody to write a letter, for instance, or to have a subcommittee debate and come up with some bullet points, or however you'd like to do it. The next meeting of this commission is scheduled for the day before the strategic plan, so there would be time to finalize a letter, for instance, on that night and have it delivered to the council in time for the conversation the next evening. So this is really just an opportunity for discussion. If there doesn't necessarily need to be anything coming out of it, but certainly we would want to help and facilitate that if the commission did want to present something to the council at that time.
I'll start off.
Commissioner Anderson.
I know Measure FP passed in the November election. I don't know if there's an interest with staff in terms of trying to incorporate. I'm sure the staff is reviewing how to incorporate right now, but how that could be incorporated into the strategic plan might be an idea. My second idea would be, I noticed on the city website right now, there's 3 standards that we have: commercial driveway and 2 for trenching. And I don't want to create work for the staff more than that, I know you're busy. But I don't know if there's ever been an internal discussion about kind of creating a more comprehensive standards for the city, if that really benefits. I mean, some areas, I thought that might be much more relevant to a city like Redondo Beach that's fully developed, but has infill and improvements, or things like tree wells, residential driveways, curb ramps, street dimensioning, survey monumentation, or sewer and water connections were a few that I thought might be relevant for a city of ours. Again, I don't want to create work, but I thought it might be something that could kind of fill out and be something that could be a good reliance for the city to look into as well from a strategic standpoint. And then the last one is what I brought up with the city manager about looking through here. I noticed the Green Line EIR review under Goal 6, it's an EIR review, and I think it's really great that the city has been engaged through that whole process. But like I said to the manager, the city's going to go to a different phase, and it's going to require different reviews. And I think from a public art standpoint is really important in making sure that we get out there. There's going to be great separations on this project. I don't know exactly how the hybrid model is going to work within the city limits, but there's going to be areas where it's going to be, I do know for a fact this thing is going to go, they're going to be raised and then it's going to go underground. And there's going to be a lot of surface opportunities to provide public art or have the city represented respectfully. I think that there's some areas where we really want to make sure that we're getting our pound of flesh with respect to the improvements for, if we're incorporating bike lane improvements or pedestrian improvements. To be candid, I worked on the Metro Regional Connector Project, and that was a big part of discussion where some of these things of how does the city of Los Angeles incorporate in their improvements while Metro is doing that, and making sure we have the team that's available, whether in-house or a consultant, to review and provide the best interests of the city. So I know it's a ways out before they get to what is my understanding is going to be a progressive design build project. So, but it's really important, I think, during the initial stage of the progressive design build that we get our input in there, because at that point, they're going to really start to lock in what those improvements are going to be and then start to work through the improvements of that place. I know this isn't scheduled to be till like 2032 when this is done, but this is a really critical part. So something for the city to think about where they want to be, how they want to incorporate. And that could even be utility upgrades. I know that would be probably seen as a, what's the word they like to use? An improvement that's not necessary. But I think it's a good opportunity to just have those overall city infrastructure. So that's something that I recommend to take a look at when I'm invoking the strategy going forward. Betterment, thank you.
Metro's buzzword.
But yeah.
Anyone else have a? I think that's it, so.
So are these, just for clarity, because there's no report to really receive and file, but is there any motion to include these in a formal letter, or are these just comments that we're taking kind of on the minutes from Commissioner Anderson? Just trying to gauge the interest of the the commission as to whether you guys want to submit a formal letter supporting certain strategic plan items. If we want to bring something back for the April meeting before the strategic plan. You don't have to, just an option if you'd like.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's important in it to put it inside of the metro, put it on paper for the metro area at this time, instead of waiting it for the end of it, and where we may or may not get anything if it's not included in the verbiage now. How would that be seen from the council, or would that be something that would be more in-house?
So the council takes input from a number of parties at their strategic plan. It's open to the public, certainly. So the council provides their input. Staff is asked for input. Residents are invited to give input. Commissioners individually as residents can provide input, or a commission as a body can provide input through a letter or something like that. The advantage of coming early and discussing it now is that you could, for instance, assign a subcommittee to write a letter on your behalf and bring it back to the April meeting that you could review and change and eventually approve to distribute the following evening. That would be an option. You could make a statement tonight that you ask staff to take forward as a memo to the council based on, a statement that you would all approve through a vote. So there's a few ways that you can communicate your desires here and your wishes and the ideas that you would like council to consider at that time.
I mean, I'd be happy to draft a letter of what I just stated out, bullet point, pass it over to the clerk for distribution to I could be a subcommittee of one, right?
We could certainly come back with an item in April, at your April meeting, with a proposed letter that you guys could then edit, and authorize, to move for staff to forward the next day or bring the next day on behalf of the commission.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should absolutely do that.
Okay.
I'm all about asking for Metro for more.
Right.
Early on.
It's going to be a huge project that's going to go through our city, and there's a lot of stuff coming off of it that we should ask for. And I think it was a great day to mention, or a great idea to mention that in the next council meeting, to be sure.
How much focus is there going to be on the Metro project for the next fiscal year strategic plan? Or whatever, the next 6 to 9 months, or or if it is so far pushed out, are these comments a little too early for where the city is right now?
Well, I think the city is very much still engaged in the Green Line extension. They haven't formally decided what route they're going to take, although they did have identified a locally preferred alternative that some would not consider the locally preferred alternative. So I think they're still looking at both the Hawthorne alignment and the right-of-way alignment in their EIR. So our community is very engaged in that. Our city, as you may know, or maybe you don't know, our city council wrote a letter in opposition to the right-of-way alignment and preferred the Hawthorne alignment. So there's some tension set up there between what was the locally approved or locally preferred alternative compared to what the city's letter was. So I think, to answer your question, I think there will be quite a bit of engagement during this EIR final review period. And then once it gets to the next phase beyond that, there's always opportunities. They come to us, occasionally and ask for thoughts, both at technical level and at the political level. I don't recall, you have your strategic plan in the package here. I don't recall what was accomplished in the last year, but I think there was at least one item on there.
It says that there was a agreement with an environmental review firm on January 21st of this year, and with a geotechnical firm on February 4th.
Big budget item. Right, that's a big budget item you guys hired.
Yeah, they did. Right. So natural extension of that might be something that you would include in your letter, next steps, whatever they might be. Or there's a first last mile program that Metro offers funding for to help kind of connect the existing infrastructure to platform or a parking lot or whatever that Metro brings in. So we'll be taking advantage, of those kinds of funds when they become available and when we know where the platform and the station's going to be. There are, art issues is a great suggestion, that I don't know if Metro has a commitment to public art as part of their projects, but our city certainly has an art fund and may want to see if there's matching opportunities or something like that with Metro to do that. So those could all be suggestions.
Yeah.
And I don't know when Metro starts asking for that very specific kind of input. I don't think it'll be before they decide where they're going to put the alignment, but yeah.
Yeah, I think these things are always a moving target. It's hard to find out when they're really going to want to come in. I mean, look, when I was on the regional connector, we started in 2014 and we were going to be out and that thing was going to be done in 2017 or something. And then it opened 2 years ago, more or less. And so it's really hard, but I think it's something to keep it. I guess the recommendation would just to keep it at top of mind as it goes into a different phase and the needs that you're going to have versus like it's great to have an environmental review firm right now and a lawyer on that side, but those needs will definitely change as the project gets into the next phase. So yeah, I'm happy to just draft a letter and share it with the commission.
And we can,
Yeah.
Can you provide some clarity on what the letter is? Because typically the strategic plan outlines what the opportunities for the city are. So I'm kind of confused what the letter would be. Would it be encouraging the city to do something specific? Because that's where they landed before, where they landed on investing in environmental, no, it was geologists, right? Geologists?
Geotechnical and maybe something environmental. I don't.
So is it, if you just give me some clarity on like what the letter would include would be helpful.
Yeah, I think at this point, it might just be a good opportunity to take a look at recommendations for how they want to, the opportunities they see for providing input on those improvements. I think we don't have to get super specific at this point. I don't think, it's not for me to say you need this and you need that. I think it's the opportunity for Public Works to go back and go, okay, where do you think as we go into this next phase, where we might need to have a real focus as we go into final design? Yeah.
I agree with the spirit of that. I think right now, though, if they're still, if the city's still pushing back on where it's actually going, I feel like that conversation happens once the alignment is 100% chosen.
Once the route is approved?
Because what I wouldn't want to, and I'm sure the city council will, exercise its best judgment, but we start asking for concessions based on an alignment that the city really doesn't want, it almost shows a willingness to accept it. You see what I'm saying?
But my improvements are irrespective
Public art and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say, hey, make sure that this intersection over here, it's much more like, let's
Keep it in mind.
keep it in mind with respect to the curb ramps, the bike lanes.
So maybe I can suggest an idea about finding out what the process is to make those contributions of design and art and what have, just maybe that's the way we keep in touch with that as the objective of that goal is to determine when Metro will be looking for those inputs and who do we give them to and how do we engage the public with that and that kind of thing.
It could be, creation of a subcommittee to discuss X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's helpful for them too, because a big bucket letter isn't helpful for city council. They don't know what to do with that.
Okay.
I mean, maybe they do, but it is helpful to give feedback and some guidance in that regard with a clear outcome. So if the goal is to increase community engagement on public art, then it's to hire a facilitator maybe to convene a group of residents to talk about public art. I think that's what's really helpful. If you looked at past strategic plans, that clarity is really helpful to move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, as a newbie, I'm more than happy to draft a letter than have everybody tear it up and say, hey, this is a much better process and how we should get acceptance from council and go forward. I think for me, the reason why I'm bringing it up is because this is an annual thing, right?
Strategic plan, yes.
Yeah, and so
Every 6 months.
Every 6 months. So if it was quarter or something, I would.
Depends.
That's the idea, but.
Sometimes they've done every 6 months. The last time they did an 18-month one. So I don't know whether there's going to be another 6 month or a year one. But
This one looks like it's only 6 months. It said it was adopted in October.
I think they
Yes.
were late for like August, and so I think they're trying to get on a 12-month cycle, kind of prior to the budget, so they can, if any of these things require funding in the budget, they can, they know that before the budget season really gets into full gear. But yeah, I think that's the intent, at least last time when I listened. But to your point, Commissioner Anderson, if you need some staff support during this time, we can certainly throw some ideas back and forth about how to word a letter to capture the ideas that the commission is interested in communicating.
Okay, great, yeah.
So there's no action for us tonight.
So we would make a motion to have Commissioner Anderson draft a letter, bring it back during the April meeting, which is the day before, and then have the commission review that letter, edit it, and then submit it for city council consideration.
Sure, I'll make that motion.
But before that, we need to take public comment.
Oh, sorry.
We do have one card, Liam Walsh.
Okay, yeah, hello again. So yeah, I won't go back over what I mentioned earlier about the bike master plan, but I think as part of this strategic planning session, it would be great if we could come out of that with a date or a year at which we think the bike master plan will be done. Because I think right now it's, hopefully it's not in the 2050s, but I would like to see a schedule and funding and whatnot for what it takes for us to nail a date down for where we think it's going to be done by this year. And also to that end, as part of South Bay Bicycle Coalition, I have a whole host of spreadsheets and maps and things that go over the status of what's been done, statistics year over year, collision data, and just maps that you can explore to see what all the different plans are. And I'd be more than happy to go into that at a deeper level at a future meeting if you were willing to agendize that. So I just wanted to put that out there as an offer. I would be more than happy to spend more time talking about this and figuring out how we can work together to see this through completion. And definitely want to emphasize that Redondo Beach has been a huge leader across the South Bay with this, more so than any other city. So really appreciate everything you've been doing and want to see how we can take it to the next level. So thanks.
For the record, there are no e-comments and no one on Zoom that would like to speak.
I have a question based on his comment. I don't know if I can because it's public comment. Can I ask you a question about it?
Certainly, yeah.
Okay. So the bicycle master plan, there's been no budget for that? You guys are just implementing it on the go or?
No, that's not quite right.
Schedule of a budget, I should say?
We don't use a lot of general fund money. We have transportation funding available. We've used something called a call for projects funding to complete this most recent project for Catalina Boulevard, and we did a bunch of streets, Nob Hill, number of improvements that you probably noticed in the last year or so. We also have a MAT grant, a Metro Active Transportation grant that we're working on to connect Dominguez Park area all the way to El Camino College through the Ripley Grant, Redondo Beach Boulevard corridor with partners with Lawndale and County of LA. So there is a lot of money available, and we are going after that where we can. We have just starting a project to extend the North Redondo Beach bike path, those last 2 blocks to Inglewood. That project was awarded just last week, I think.
Correct.
And so it'll be in construction in this summer. We have another project to extend from where that bike path ends southward to Grant Avenue and then southward again to Ripley to create a bicycle, class 4 or better bicycle pathway through there, as well as develop a kind of a bicycle hub in the southeast corner of that of Grant and Inglewood. All through Metro funding. So those things are in design. They're actually fairly far into design. We need to go back to council for some more. We're going to District 4 council meeting, I think, next month. No, this week actually, isn't it? I think it's Thursday night. To talk about that with the residents there and get some more input. So there are a lot of things that we're doing that are funded through Metro. We have had, despite the best efforts to form the master plan, we have had considerable community pushback on some of the proposed ideas on some of the routes. For instance, Prospect Boulevard.
The bike path to nowhere? Oh, go ahead.
Well, not the little short one that our good friends in Torrance decided they didn't want to extend. But the Prospect Boulevard, we had a bike, I think the master plan identifies bike lanes, class 2 bike lanes at the time, from Palos Verdes Boulevard all the way up to Redondo, 190th or Anita. And technically, we couldn't quite do it without removing parking or making lanes skinnier than current standards, which puts us in a whole legal liability situation we don't want to get into. We had funding even to do that and then the road diet debacle happened on the west side, and nobody liked the idea of road diets anymore. So we just couldn't do anything with that project at the time. We came back with the idea for putting sharrows in as kind of a placeholder. And then the laws changed at the beginning of this year that recommended sharrows not be included on streets with the speed limit over 30 miles an hour. So we deleted those from this latest plan. So we're still trying to figure out how to recover from that change in the law in terms of Prospect Boulevard, for instance. But a number of these other streets, their plans are in place and we're moving forward. But I don't know that we'll get every single street on the bicycle master plan just per, council's direction to focus in other places. So.
Thank you for that overview. But I guess a clarifying question. I'm trying to figure out, is there a plan to accomplish the bicycle master plan?
Yeah,
And that's what
sorry,
he's
I didn't
asking.
answer your question.
It's okay, and I didn't say it well enough, so I'm sorry.
We don't
What does that
have
look like? Is it
we don't
by
have a
priority?
date. We don't have a date certain. We try and pick them up with street improvements on our arterials that we do.
Okay,
We have, the city council typically designates a small amount every year, like $85,000 or something, for planning to kind of get us to the next step for design and where we want to go next. But we do pick up a lot of money opportunistically through Measure M and grant programs that are available to us. So limitations are both on the staffing side. We just don't have enough people to do that fast enough, along with all the other projects, and sometimes on the technical side and the public outreach side. It's not.
that would be a good project.
Yeah.
To submit to your strategic plan, right? I guess to take up more of it, of the streets, right? Because right now you're just incorporating the bicycle master plan based on the streets that you're currently have allocated to fix right now? Is that how it sounds like it?
No, we have the overall plan, and we do target those streets in particular. In fact, I had a spreadsheet a while back. I haven't updated it in a while, but it had a kind of got us to about 90% of all the streets on the plan with either class 3 or class 2. Class 3 I know is not ideal for most people on a non-residential street, but that was kind of what we had to live with based on the public input we gotten. So we had that available. We have to revisit that all the time based on the input we get from the council and the community. So I couldn't tell you that on November 17th, 2029, we'd be done, but we'd love to get to a place. So maybe that's something that could be suggested, that we would, develop a schedule, a rough schedule for full implementation of the 2011 plan.
Thank you.
So I know Commissioner Bajaj made a motion. Was that correct?
Yes.
Can you repeat the motion just for the record?
It was to revisit this next month, right? After Commissioner Anderson provides draft letter for us to kind of discuss together.
And at that meeting, you guys are free to edit it however you wish.
Yeah.
Add more items at that time if you guys have thought about anything in the last month. So that's always an option as well.
I need a second
I'll
from somebody.
second the motion.
Yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
But we need a roll call for
Let's
this?
do a roll call
Aye.
vote for this one. Commissioner Simpson?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nafisi?
Aye.
Commissioner Sao?
Aye.
Vice Chair Beely?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
J4. discussion on the April 2025 Public Works and Sustainability Commission meeting schedule.
Right. So every year in April, well, not every year, most years in April, we have a combined meeting with the Budget and Finance Commission to talk about the upcoming budget and especially the CIP program. We've held a joint meeting in the past. I don't know if we did it last year, but we
did not.
We did last year.
We've done it at other times. And what we're suggesting this year is, because we have some regular business items coming back in April, staff recommendation would be that we have a special joint meeting of the two commissions on the 28th of April at 6 p.m. And then when that's done, adjourn to a regular meeting that's scheduled for 7 p.m. on the same meeting. It typically doesn't take an hour. We sometimes Q&A may go that long, but our presentation will be relatively brief on kind of the status of the current CIP program. So anyway, that's our recommendation, that you consider that. And if you so choose, that we align our meetings that way for the same evening, 1 hour and then the next.
Will it work?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to hold a joint meeting with Budget and Finance, April 28th.
28th, do I have that right,
The
Jesse?
28th, correct.
At 6 p.m., yeah.
I'll second that.
Before we take a vote, take public comment. There's no cards for this. We do not have any e-comments. We do have Brianna on Zoom. Go ahead, Brianna.
Hi, thanks again. Brianna Egan. I'm commenting on this item because I heard discussion on and questions around upcoming bike plans for the city. And I believe in addition to the District 4 meeting that is occurring this week, the regular meeting of that you all will have on April 28th is also scheduled to discuss the Metro Active Transportation Project and the North Redondo Beach Bikeway extension. So I think just want to give you all a heads up that that is occurring at the next April meeting. And I do want to echo the comments that Liam shared. I really hope you all consider that. Liam has actually been doing a lot of work putting together data and compiling maps and reporting on the Bike Master Plan across the South Bay. He's been doing all this work on his free time as a volunteer and really doing work that, frankly, our regional councils of government should be doing. And so I think there's a lot to be said with, volunteer work and people who are wanting to provide information and help you all out to all work together, right, on implementing our Bike Master Plan. So I think there's a lot that could be learned from hearing from South Bay Bicycle Coalition and working together again to advance like strategic plans to develop a bike implementation plan. I think we're on a really good trajectory in the city with regards to that. Yeah, just wanted to provide that comment and support for that item on a future agenda. Thank you.
There are no other Zoom comments. So I believe there was a motion by Commissioner Sao. I didn't catch who seconded.
I seconded it.
Second by
Yeah.
Commissioner Bajaj.
Is this one, do we can do a roll call or do we just,
I think we can do, let's just do a roll call just to be
Sure.
safe. Commissioner Simpson?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nafisi?
Aye.
Commissioner Sao?
Aye.
Vice Chair Beely?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. We are on item K.
Commission member items and future commission agenda topics. Do we have anything we'd like to
This is also like time for referrals to staff and so
refer to
forth.
staff? Thank you.
Yeah, just just to be a little bit careful with that language. City manager has directed us to inform the commissions that the council would prefer, we not call it referrals to staff, but that you all discuss things that you would like to bring back as future agenda items. And certainly questions, we're happy to answer questions as we do every month. But so anyway, just to follow the strict letter of the new teaching here. Yeah.
No items at this time.
Oh, I believe I asked about street lighting.
Yeah, you did. And we looked, there were two things. Street lighting was one, and you asked about something else. And it was the something else we got done in the street lighting. I got there, and it was about not being bright enough on those streets.
Yes.
And I realized I never got the exact locations from you, so I needed to look into that. Typically, what we'll do is we will reach out to Edison and petition for a new street light, or we could also do an illumination study just to see how bright it actually is. We can, under our own power, we can check the brightness of the fixture that's there, and in some cases, we can increase that brightness. A lot of the residents don't like bright streetlights, so we try and stay kind of in that Goldilocks zone for that. But maybe I can talk offline with you and get the exact location. I know it was on Robinson. I couldn't remember the exact intersection where it was.
Phelan Robinson.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think there's a street light there.
Yeah, that area used to have a lot of wooden utility poles, and Edison would attach their streetlights to the wooden poles, and the
Right.
wooden poles began to come down. Edison doesn't do that typically anymore, in our city at least, and so that one may have come down for some reason and not ever been put back. So we'll address it with them, and I'll go out there and have a look, or have somebody go out and have a look, and we'll make sure we get the right pole numbers and street pole numbers for Edison to look at.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anything else? Nope. All right, we can always bring something up for your next, you bring your letter and stuff, we can.
Yeah.
So, adjournment,
All right, motion to adjourn?
second?
Second it?
I did. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.